All right, and we are live here on YouTube for this webinar on the do's and don'ts of building trust. Let me first welcome you in. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm very interested to see how many people will show up here live. I know it's not an easy time to jump onto something like this live, 7 p.m. Eastern on a Wednesday, but happy hump day. We're almost there. We're almost through, or at least through to the other side of this week. And as I'm recording this live, I am in my final full week at school and at work before the Thanksgiving holiday. So let me take this opportunity to not just wish you well in the rest of the full week that we have, but wish you happy holidays in advance. My name is Dr. Dan Kreines. I'm the host of the Leader of Learning podcast, as well as an educational leader, and I really love talking about leadership. If you've been following me, this YouTube channel, or my podcast for a while, you probably understand how much I really enjoy talking about leadership and, probably more importantly, helping inspire others on their leadership journey. I just had a conversation with someone recently where we talked a lot about how really the most inspirational aspect of a leader is when they get to inspire and create new leaders, and having it be a cyclical effect where one leader creates more leaders, and then so on and so forth. The podcast talks a lot about transformational leadership topics. I have studied a lot of transformational leadership over the past several years. Back in 2020, I defended a doctoral dissertation in which I researched how to use or practice transformational leadership in order to inspire growth mindsets in teachers. And so I wanted to do something with that knowledge and that information outside of my work as an instructional leader in my role at my school, but also to create more content around how to help others be more transformational in their leadership and really just be better leaders. And I recently heard this term. I had heard it before, but it resonated with me differently when I heard it last. I heard someone say, when it comes to creating content, that you're not selling information, you're selling transformation. And so I was inspired to finally put out some content that I had been meaning to put out for a long time. And I've gone ahead and created a free course called How to Build Trust as a Leader. So the information that I'm going to cover here in this webinar for the next almost hour, I would say, is a small piece of the content that's covered in that course. We're going to dive into some things that you want to do to build trust as a leader and to build and maintain really strong working relationships with those that you lead and serve, like your followers and your colleagues. And also, we're going to talk about things not to do. So the do's and the don'ts of leadership, and more specifically, building trust as a leader. In this course that I've created, and I want to just put up on the screen here, and I'll show it a few times throughout the course, how to access it. The free course called How to Build Trust as a Leader is available now, and it can be accessed at leaderoflearning.com/courses. In that course, we talk about how leadership, and really more specifically trust, it serves as a foundation in that everything else that goes into leadership, from maintaining good relationships to building and maintaining a positive culture and climate in the workplace, all of that is built, at least in my expert opinion, on that idea of trust. And so I really want to spend a lot of time with it, not only in this course that I've created, which, by the way, the course is available, like I said, now, and I think it'll provide a lot of value to anyone who checks it out, and is really intended for definitely all educators, classroom teachers, because I consider classroom teachers leaders as well. They lead the students and the next generation of leaders. Definitely instructional leaders and administrators, whether that be at the school level or the district level, and really anyone who currently holds a leadership position or aspires to a leadership position. I think this information that is in the course, as well as that we're going to cover here in this little bit, will be very valuable to anyone who holds a leadership position, but it also is aspiring to a leadership position. If I keep looking down, that's because I have another screen here open to YouTube, and I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any comments or anything in the chat. So please feel free, if you are watching live, to go ahead and leave a comment. For right now, I would love for you to let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from. So again, my name is Dr. Dan Kreines, educator and educational leader, podcaster, and I'm coming to you from New Fairfield, Connecticut. And I'm really excited to delve in to the do's and don'ts of building trust and how that can help someone become a better leader. So let me just share with you a little bit of a presentation that I put together. Not much, but there it is on the screen. Let me just make it a little bigger. No, I made myself bigger. That's okay. So we're going to start with the do's of trust building and leadership. And the first do that we're going to talk about, and by the way, the do's will be listed in green, the don'ts will be in red. The first one is be consistent. You can see there on that slide, fair doesn't mean equal. I tell this to my own kids at home all the time, that, and if you have kids, or if you've ever been a kid, you understand how frustrating it can be when someone is getting something that you're not. And so at home, I deal with this a lot as a parent, where my kids will complain sometimes about things not being fair because they don't get something that their sibling got, or they don't have the same opportunity or experience. And that's tough. But I always tell them fair doesn't necessarily mean equal. And so here, what I'm saying is, you should aim to be fair in your decisions and your actions. Stick to your vision and mission when you can. I don't know about you, but I've had experiences throughout my career where it's questionable as to how consistent a leader is being. And that can be displayed and portrayed in a lot of different ways. Being consistent can mean not favoring certain staff members. It could mean being on time and honoring your commitments. It could mean making sure that, in the case of school leaders, when you are doling out discipline, that you're not doing it differently for one group of students or one student in particular versus other students. And so being consistent is what I like to start off with here, talking about do's and don'ts, because I think it's one of the first things that any leader should do to really be mindful of how they're building trust and how they're starting to form that foundation of their leadership in their building, in their organization. So that's being consistent. It really can go a long way. If you are inconsistent, as much as it might not seem like it's that important, it will definitely make your followers, your colleagues, if you're a classroom teacher, your students, it'll make them question basically your integrity. How sincere are you at delivering on the things that you're saying that you're going to do, or the things that you mean to do? Like, again, in the case of student discipline, your integrity basically goes out the window when students feel like they're being treated unfairly. And again, I said fair doesn't mean equal, but when they feel like they're being treated unfairly, and especially when they have good cause to feel like that, then that's where that integrity really comes into question. So far I've asked you to comment, and that goes for whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching back on the replay. Please go ahead and in the chat or in the comment section below this video, let me know if you've ever experienced a time when a leader, or maybe if you're in a leadership position, maybe when you got called out for not being consistent. I think of definitely times when, again, related to student discipline, where it just didn't seem like students were, or leaders were being consistent in the way that they delivered consequences to students. And I'll probably never forget that one school that I worked at several years ago had a room. It was a lot like an in-school suspension room, but it was really just a holding room for students who had to be removed from class. And for a while, before we had more of like a check-in system where students had to fill out a form and go through a reflection process, for a while, I would see some students in there all the time, and it often seemed like they were in there for more minor reasons. And then I would see some students, or I would not see some students in there ever. And meanwhile, I knew that they were not behaving very well and probably deserved to wind up in there, but didn't. And so, discipline in schools can be very inconsistently managed and dealt with a lot of the times. And that's the first example that comes to my mind, but there are so many other examples as well where leaders have been inconsistent and unfortunately have done damage basically to their reputation, perhaps, and certainly their effectiveness as a leader. So the next do, the next thing we want school leaders or any leaders to do is to be authentic. This can go a very long way in terms of building that foundation of trust and being a really strong and effective leader. So it says, no one will trust or respect you if you're putting on a front, right? A front meaning you're being phony, you're saying things that don't necessarily align with things that you would normally say. You're doing things that seem out of character. And, to try to avoid doing or saying things that take you away from your unique style and expertise. In my expert opinion, I think that there are times when leaders do this because they feel inadequate. I think that sometimes leaders are not their authentic selves because they are trying to live up to certain expectations, or that they feel like they're being held to certain standards that are maybe not fair. And definitely when they are comparing themselves to others. I wrote a chapter that'll be published soon in a book called The 100 Things That All Leaders Should Stop Doing. And in that chapter, I wrote about trust and respect. And my chapter is actually called Stop Expecting Respect Just Because You're the Leader. And in that chapter, and even in the chapter I wrote prior to it, I talk a little bit about how imposter syndrome can creep in for school leaders. And part of that is because they feel like they're comparing themselves to others, that they have to compare themselves to others. Maybe another leader is younger than they are. Maybe another leader is more effective than they are. Maybe another leader has built better relationships and people like them better. Maybe data and other evidence shows that a leader has created a more positive culture and climate in their organization. That could cause any leader, school leader or otherwise, to fake it, right? And we've all heard that term, fake it till you make it. Some leaders may feel like they need to fake it until they make it to whatever level that they're comparing themselves to, that someone else has made it to. So secondly is this idea of being authentic. I just want to put up one more time the link to this free course. Again, We dive way deeper into building trust and leadership in that course. The whole course should take you approximately 1 hour total to complete. And this presentation on the do's and don'ts is a small part of that course. So I hope that you'd consider, after watching this and going through this webinar, taking that course to see other ways that I talk about how to build trust, how trust is a foundational concept and something that really gets built upon when someone is in a leadership position and striving to be a really effective leader. There it is right there. It's called How to Build Trust as a Leader. And you can access that course going to leaderoflearning.com/courses. Let me take that away for a second, hit up my next slide here. Be on time. When it comes to building trust, and this is sort of a follow-up to the slide on being consistent, but more specifically, be on time. And I separated those things because I do consider them to be different. Yes, being on time all the time is a sign of someone being consistent in when they show up. But here I'm talking about how, physically being more than occasionally late will negatively affect trust and respect. But it's more than that too. It also goes for meeting deadlines on time or even early. When leaders fail to be on time, showing up, of course, but also not being on time when it comes to adhering to deadlines, submitting important documents, things that need to get filed at certain times, that can really be detrimental to someone's respect for you. Again, I wrote that chapter on trust and respect, and it's a pretty easy way to lose someone's respect and not really concentrate on building their trust when you're not on time. Showing up late, not being able to submit and turn things in on time. Leaders, perhaps more than anyone, are usually the ones who have more paperwork. They have to report out on the success of the organization. In schools, building leaders have reports that they need to turn in to their supervisors and maybe even state and regional educational organizations, and failing to do so a lot. Maybe one time you're late on something, it can be overlooked, but it's really hard to come back from when you are consistently not on time, or in other words, inconsistent, which I know I talked about in the previous slide, but being on time can really go a long way in building that trust and building up your effectiveness as a leader. Just checking in here. If you're watching this live, please go ahead and let us know where you're watching from. And since we're on this slide on being on time, leave us a comment in the chat, or when you're watching this after, go ahead and put a comment in about any time when your leader has not been consistent and been on time. I think it's actually safe to say, and I'm really glad to say, that I haven't had the experience too often where leaders are not on time very much. But I did work in one school as an administrator with a principal who was questionably late to school a lot. And most of the time there was an excuse. I don't want to say an excuse. Most of the time there was a reason given, and that reason was that the principal had to stop at the central office, the district offices, on their way to the school. Frankly, though, I don't know. I never really trusted that. I never believed that reason. And I think there was a lot more to my not believing, because there were other aspects of the trust that I didn't have in that leader. And so, and that's the whole premise behind this webinar and this course. Because I had already lost some trust in that leader, in that principal, I just had a hard time believing why they weren't showing up consistently on time to school every day. That's pretty much all. That's as far as I want to go with that story for right now. But again, safe to say I haven't had too many experiences in my career where the leaders themselves weren't showing up on time, but I have definitely had plenty of experiences when teachers haven't shown up on time. And I mean at the beginning of the school day, but I also mean showing up on time for their classes. And when it comes to classroom teachers, they start losing the trust of their students when they can't even get to work on time every day, or they're taking too long in, I don't know, the staff room or the cafeteria, and they can't make it back to their class in time, and the same class in time on a regular basis. So that's really tough. And again, classroom teachers are leaders, school and district administrators are leaders, and if they are not showing up and really committed to being on time all the time, it's going to be very tough for them to be trusted and respected. Next, we're going to go through how good leaders and leaders who are committed to building trust and being effective should follow through on things. So again, we're going through the do's and don'ts of building trust. As a matter of fact, what I haven't mentioned yet is that in this video, in the description down below, you'll find links like the one I've already put in here for this free course on how to build trust as a leader. In addition to that, you'll find some download links, and one of those links is to actually download the poster that I've put together that goes through the things that I'm showing you on these slides. So there's a poster that you can download, you can save it, you can print it, you can do whatever you want with it, but it's a good reminder of these do's and don'ts so that when you're in a leadership position, and again, it could be a classroom teacher, it could be a school or district administrator, it could be someone who's not even in education, but in a leadership position and wants to just be reminded of how to be a good leader and how to build trust and how to maintain good working relationships with their staff, with their colleagues. Go ahead and download that resource. It's free. Open it, download it, print it, do whatever you want with it. But it's down below in the description. Look for where it says, download the do's and don'ts poster, and you can go ahead and access that for yourself. So moving on to follow through now. We're still going through the do's, what to do as a leader to build trust and the respect of your staff. So it goes a very long way when you say you will do something and then actually do it. It increases reliability and credibility with others. If you're going to do something and you say you're going to do something, then you better do it. I have a really good story, and it's one from my own experience as a leader. And in this course, in the course on building trust, I talk about, and actually in the chapter that I wrote about stop expecting respect, I talk about a story of a teacher, and I've renamed her over the years because I don't want to publish her real name, although I think she'd probably be okay with it by now. But I've renamed her Dana. So as a school administrator, the first opportunity I had to be a school administrator, we had a teacher, I'll call her Dana, who she was that teacher. We all know that teacher. We all have that coworker or that staff member who I'm just going to say is like a thorn in your side. Dana was, I don't think she was the union representative at the school, but she was the one who knew the contract inside and out. she was the one who was pretty quick to question and push back on leadership decisions and policies that were being set forth by the school, by the district, new initiatives. She would question everything. And she would definitely not hesitate in any opportunity she had to throw the contract at you. And so there were a couple of times when I visited Dana's classroom, a couple of times when I met with her where you could cut the tension with a knife, not even joking. And well, all right, it's not literal. You couldn't actually cut it, but you know what I mean. Very, very tense and frankly intimidating, even for me as her supervisor. But one day, the point of the story is this: one day, Dana had sought me out because she led a student organization, and she and the organization needed a very specific announcement delivered over the school's PA system at a very specific time. So very specific announcement at a very specific time. She handed me the announcement. It was written out like a script on a piece of paper. She explained to me how to deliver the message and most importantly, when to deliver it. Again, very specific announcement at a very specific time. And so, again, a little intimidating to know that I needed to get this done within the very specific parameters that I was given. And I know that sounds silly to kind of build up that pressure or put that pressure on myself, but I kind of knew that if I did this, that it might actually do something for the trust and the respect between me and this teacher, Dana. And so sure enough, I delivered the message at the right time. I made the announcement, and everything went exactly how it was supposed to go, exactly how it was said to me and directed to me to do it. And so, again, I know it sounds silly, but I was proud of myself, and I was really glad that I was able to do it the way that she wanted it done. But most importantly, and not to sound too cheesy here, it really did go a long way in improving the working relationship that I had, that was between me and this teacher, Dana. And so in this course and in my chapter on building respect or gaining respect, I talk about how a little goes a long way. Reading that announcement over the loudspeaker was a little thing that I needed to do. It probably wasn't the most important thing I had to do that day. It wasn't a very challenging task or a big responsibility, but that I did it well and did it on time it really affected in a positive way the relationship that I had with that teacher. And it was a turning point, actually. Not to make mountains out of molehills here, but that teacher not only was she was much more cooperative with me the rest of the time that I worked there, but at the end of that school year, when it was time for me to move on from that school and that job, she still stayed in touch and let me know how much she appreciated my leadership style and the efforts that I went to make sure that she and the other staff members felt supported versus maybe the other leaders at that school. So that's a lot about follow through, but also, next one. Oh man, there we go. Next one is follow up. And I sort of had this internal debate with myself when I was creating this resource, this poster that you can download, and also the course as to whether or not I really wanted to differentiate between follow through and follow up. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought they are different. So to me, following through on things means coming through with what you say you're going to do or what's expected of you to do. Follow up means that when you follow up with people, it shows that there's an amount of initiative, and it conveys your commitment level. So following up with people to me means you're not just gonna let something slide. You're not gonna easily forget about something. You're not gonna just brush it off. You're gonna make sure that it doesn't get forgotten about. You're going to make sure that it stays at the forefront of your mind, or anyone else who it matters most to. And I think about, you know, following up in terms of outreach. Maybe you got an email sent to you that could easily be forgotten about. It could get buried among the hundreds, thousands of emails that you haven't read yet. I don't know. Sometimes I see people with their phones, and they got the notifications, and I see the little badge numbers, and they're like in the thousands. So maybe you're one of those people who is in the thousands of unread emails, and one slips by you that you should have followed through with. You should have not let that email become as forgotten about as it really became ultimately. And so be very careful about not following up on things or not following up with people, because again, like I said, I just believe that it goes a long way when it comes to commitment. You know, when you follow through, you are saying, I am committed to answering that email, to speaking to, if you're a school or district leader. I know I had to do this a lot as an assistant principal. I'm committed to making sure that I speak with that parent about their students' behavior or their students' academic success. Not following through or not following up is, it basically says to someone that you're just not that committed to them and, maybe the issues that they have. So very quickly, just recapping the things that you should do as a leader to build trust and be more effective with your relationships and your success as a leader. Be consistent, be authentic, be on time, follow through, and follow up. Before I get into the don'ts, what not to do as a leader, I one more time want to let you know that my free course on how to build trust as a leader is available now. It is free, completely free. I absolutely mean it. All you have to do is head to that website that is on the screen right now down below, leaderoflearning.com/courses, and then enroll in that free course called How to Build Trust as a Leader. You may notice when you go to that website that I am building out more courses in the Leader of Learning Academy. My next course will be a course on how to be a more transformational leader. That one's not quite ready yet, but that one will be a paid course. If you want to go ahead and pre-enroll in that course, albeit from me to stop you from doing that, you can certainly pre-enroll. But for now, I really want to make sure that you get in and get that value out of taking this free course on how to build trust. So, getting back to my presentation here, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with the mouse, but now we're going to get into the don'ts. Here's what not to do as a leader when it comes to building trust and being effective and being successful. And as the do's were in green, just like the traffic light, we want to go, or we want to do the things that are in green. We want to stop doing the things that are in red. So here we go with the first of the don'ts, things not to do. Don't lie. Nothing, and in my opinion, I do mean nothing, will break someone's trust in you more than lying to them. How are they going to ever be able to believe you again? I mentioned before being consistent or being called out for being consistent with my own kids at home. But I think when I think about this aspect of leadership and not lying, I think about, at home with my own kids too. Not that I lie to them, but when they lie to me or when I think they lie to me, I'm like, even if it's something small, how much, like, when am I going to believe you again? Right. And so for in leadership, this is a very, very slippery slope when you start to actually lie or conceal information from your staff, from your colleagues. It's just, it's going to be hurtful. It's going to come back to bite you, and it could do damage to your reputation, and it could very likely do damage to your career. So don't lie. I think it's pretty obvious, and that's why I led with it as number one on the list of things not to do as a leader, or not to do when you build trust. Next on the list of don'ts is don't sneak. If you sneak around and do things under the table rather than by the book, you communicate that you cannot be counted on. If you cannot be counted on, you can't be trusted. If you can't be trusted, you really can't keep your job as a leader. And again, that could mean as a classroom teacher, that could mean as a school or building leader, that can mean any leader in any line of work. I'm not even talking about education right now. I don't even want to bring up all the stories that we've heard over the years about teachers acting inappropriately, because I think that's also pretty self-explanatory. But I will tell you a story of a leader that I didn't work for, but someone who worked in the same district that I worked in. And this was a school principal who was his union's president. So the president of the administrators union in the district. And as part of that role I believe he was the president. I could be wrong, but as part of whatever role he held in the union, it was part of his responsibilities were to handle the money and to keep track of the funds that were coming in and out, including union dues and a variety of other things. And it was determined after a while, I'm not sure how long, a couple years, I think, that this school building leader, this principal, was embezzling money and was sneaking around, not doing things by the book, but doing things under the table and underhandedly sneaking money that wasn't his. And so obviously, once it was found out, he was brought up on charges. He was removed from the school and let go from the district. And so that's a pretty extreme example, obviously, but it is a reminder that just like I said, when it comes to lying, that it can do so much damage to someone's reputation, but also their career when they lie or when they sneak. And so, again, if you are watching this after the fact, if you could go ahead and hit me up in the comments down below and let me know an example from your experience or something that you've heard of when you've dealt with this kind of lying or sneaking by a leader, and how it affected you, and especially if you were in the same organization as that leader, how it affected the organization. What happened as a result of that leader sneaking around or lying, and what were the short-term effects of that, and what were the long-term effects? I know in the case of the leader that I mentioned, short-term, everyone was shocked. Everyone was absolutely shocked as to how that leader, how that principal could have done what he did and gotten away with it for as long as he did. But in the end, a new leader took over, and after a relatively short amount of time, then I think the culture and the climate in the building improved and really kind of just became like a blip on the radar screen, and it wasn't really something that anybody really had to deal with long term, at least not that I saw. Next, and we kind of talked about this already, but I wanted to really emphasize it as a don't do, is don't be fake. So we talked before about something you want to do that you should do as a leader is to be authentic. This is the opposite. And I tried not to be too repetitive or go for the obvious opposite answers for what not to do, but this one just seemed too glaring. When you're fake, others will see through you putting up that false exterior faster than you think, and they'll lose faith in you just as quickly. So before we talked about being your authentic self and not putting up a front, here it is again. Don't put up that false exterior. I have definitely had times in my career where leaders, principals, they have felt like they needed to live up to something that they weren't, whether that was comparing themselves to others or whether that was this false sense of high expectations and standards that, I don't know, maybe they felt like they just really needed to do something drastic to be able to live up to be able to accomplish. But it was such a quick way of losing the trust of the staff and of their colleagues. And to be honest, this one, out of all the don'ts, out of all the things that I'm talking about that leaders should not do, this is the one that I think personally lets me down more than anything. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. It's hard to put into words, but I guess it's because I think it's one of the more genuine things that you can do. And I'm going to go ahead and say it's one of the easiest things you can do is to just be yourself and be authentic. It should be easy not to lie and not to sneak around, but it should be easy enough to be yourself. And when leaders are not being themselves, when they're creating that false exterior, putting up a front, it just doesn't end well in terms of how the staff is really going to look at them and treat them. I don't even know what else to say about that. I think I just kind of lost track of what I was going to say, but we're about to go into the final two don'ts of what not to do to build trust. One more time, I want to remind you, my name is Dr. Dan Kreines, host of the Leader of Learning podcast and owner of Leader of Learning LLC. And I have just created this free course. The information is down below on the screen as well as in the description of this video. It's called How to Build Trust as a Leader. It can be found at leaderoflearning.com/courses. I would love for you to sign up and take it. It really isn't going to require that much of your time, only about an hour to watch the videos and go through the activities in the course. But I think it's going to be an hour really well spent. I think it's going to provide a lot of value to you. And again, for anyone who is currently in a leadership position, classroom teacher, school or district administrator, someone who is not in education but is in a leadership role, and especially someone who is aspiring to be a leader. Next on my list of things not to do when you're trying to build trust and succeeding as a leader is don't gossip. Don't talk behind people's backs. Don't be that person in the office, in the staff room, maybe in the bathroom that speaks negatively about people or says things about people that couldn't as easily just be said right to them. When others find out that you're talking behind people's backs, they also wonder if you do it to them too. Just don't. So here's the thing. I think sometimes we don't realize that. We think about, when you're talking behind someone's back, they're going to be upset about it. Sure, that's obvious. But did you ever think about the people who you're actually speaking to or anyone else who finds out about what you're saying? They're going to lose trust and lose respect in you. Let's say I'm a school principal. I'm talking behind one of my teachers' backs. I got to be saying it to someone, right? I have to be actually gossiping to someone. Well, that person is going to probably lose trust in me. And even if they're participating in the gossip. I truly believe that. I truly believe that even though someone may be participating in gossiping with you, they can just as easily lose respect for you and lose trust in you at the same time. At the same time you guys are gossiping together, they could very likely be losing that trust in you. Sorry, I forgot to take the course information off the screen. But don't gossip. That is a recipe for disaster, and it's on the same list as don't lie and don't sneak. It's that detrimental to the success of a leader. We have gotten at this point, we have gotten to the final, the last don't. If you're paying attention at home and you're keeping track, you're keeping score, we had 5 do's that we've already gone through. If you're joining us late, or if you've kind of started watching this video a little bit late, go back and check out the 5 do's, the things that you should do as a leader to build trust and be more successful and be more effective. Here's our final don't. Don't play favorites. And again, I know I said I try not to do this, but I think there's some level of similarity here, or really the opposite of something that I mentioned that you should do, which is that you should be consistent. And when I talked about how, fair doesn't mean equal, and how I say that to my own kids a lot of the time, but I really mean it when it comes to leaders and work places and work situations. Favoritism will only garner you respect and trust from those whom you favor. No one else, guaranteed. If you are playing favorites, you are likely going to gain the respect of those people you're favoring, right? If you only provide, I'm thinking of school leaders, principals. If you're only providing other leadership opportunities to teacher leaders who, I don't know, you consider to be the best teachers, or I don't know, they're the ones whose classrooms are right near your office. I'm just making this up. But if you have certain people that you give preferential treatment to, then everyone else is really quickly going to lose trust in you, and they are going to question not only your leadership, but they're going to question their place in the organization. They're going to question the amount of effort that they should be putting into their work and their role that they play in the organization, because they will likely feel like it's not worth it. Why put forth all that effort? Why really commit to being a productive and valued member of this organization when you're just going to value other people even more? And for what reason? I'm trying to think of an example from my own experience when this has been the case, and to be honest, it's probably happened more than I care to think of. When it comes to the fact that I've only ever really worked in my professional career in schools and as an educator, it's very often, for lack of a better term, political as to which staff members get the department chair positions and other teacher leader positions. And sometimes it's the teachers who have been there the longest, but even then, it might seem unfair to others who are more qualified, but just because they haven't been working there as long, or maybe they don't stay after hours and work as much, that they lose out, really could also lose trust in the leader and make it seem like they're just not going to be able to get the kind of opportunities that these favorites will get. So last but not least, don't play favorites is how we're going to round out this list of do's and don'ts. And just like I did with the do's, I'm going to just recap the don'ts. Don't lie was the first one. Again, nothing will break someone's trust in you more than lying to them. Then we had don't sneak. Okay, that means that you're communicating that you can't be counted on. Don't be fake, because others will see right through you really quickly. Don't gossip. And don't play favorites. If you are just tuning in, this has been a webinar on the do's and don'ts of building trust. It's basically a companion resource that is along with this free course that I have up on the screen right now that is live and has been launched on leaderoflearning.com/courses. It's part of the Leader of Learning Academy, where I am building online courses to help leaders, help educators, help anyone be better at being more effective in their leadership, and really how to support and foster a really positive culture and climate in your organization. So that's the link to the course, leaderoflearning.com/courses. Look for the one called How to Build Trust as a Leader. I will be building out more courses. If you go in there soon, you will find at least one more that's a paid course. You can pre-enroll in courses if they haven't launched yet, but definitely come back and come back for more. Keep following up with me and with the Leader of Learning Academy. In order to really stay in touch and stay abreast of the happenings with the Leader of Learning Academy, with everything I'm doing with Leader of Learning, definitely the podcast, head to leaderoflearning.com/subscribe. On that website, you'll be able to find ways to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps. I tend to use Pocket Casts as my podcast player of choice, but if you have a different one, maybe Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anything, head to leaderoflearning.com/subscribe, and you can subscribe to the podcast. Also on that same website is a way to subscribe to my email newsletter, to get updates on everything going on with Leader of Learning, and to get some additional resources that I provide for free just for my subscribers, as well as, and I'm going to say this here on this video, and hopefully you're watching live, but even if you watch after the fact, I'm just going to say it right to you. Some not just some freebies, but some discounts that are coming up with some of the paid resources that I'll be creating. So go ahead and subscribe. I don't think that you will be sorry that you did. So leaderoflearning.com/subscribe. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can subscribe to the email newsletter. And and you can subscribe on YouTube. I don't know why I would be remiss. I don't know why I haven't mentioned this before. Let me take this screen share away, and let me just talk directly to you. As I wrap up this video here, don't leave yet. Don't jump yet. Don't jump ship. Before you do, I want to explain that I would absolutely love you giving this video a thumbs up, and even better, if you're not already subscribed to this channel on YouTube, please consider subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me. And again, just like the free course, I think you'll get a lot of value out of the content that I provide here on YouTube. I will share that I've hit a couple of very significant milestones recently, within the past few weeks leading up to recording this webinar here. First, back at the end of August, I reached 100,000 views on my YouTube channel. And while it's a little hard to admit because I've been podcasting a lot longer, I haven't quite yet hit that milestone. I will soon, but it was shocking and really humbling and just so cool to know that I hit that milestone on YouTube, and even before I hit it with my podcast. So I don't take that information lightly. That is significant, and I want to celebrate it with you, someone who's been subscribing all along, or someone who you just hit that subscribe button, right? So someone who just subscribed to my channel, I thank you. I celebrate with you. It's an awesome milestone to achieve. I'm looking forward to achieving it on the podcast here real soon as well. So please give this video a thumbs up, share it. Hit that share button and share it out on social media. Share it out with friends, family, good leaders, bad leaders that you worked with or work for. It would really mean a lot to me if you would share this with someone else. Finally, In addition to subscribing to the newsletter, subscribing on YouTube, I will ask that you, once again, sign up for the free course on how to build trust as a leader. That's so much of what we've been talking about here, but I go into it in even greater detail and in so many more ways in the course, all wrapped up in that 1 hour for free that you can spend honing your leadership skills and working on how to be better with and how to be more involved in supporting positively the culture and climate in your organization. Once again, I'm Dr. Dan Kreines, leader of learning. You can follow me and find me on any social media at Dr._Kreines. Let me take this away right here. It's just below me, my name right there, at Dr._Kreines. That's on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not super active on there, but you can find me on there too. It's even my handle here on YouTube now. If you don't know, YouTube actually allows you to have handles. I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much. If you've made it this far in the video, I truly appreciate you and the time that you've committed to watching this, but especially the time that you've committed to growing yourself as a professional, as a leader. So thank you. I hope to see you enrolling in that course, maybe subscribing to the newsletter, maybe subscribing here on YouTube. But I so appreciate you tuning in, and catch the next one, and we'll see you later. Thanks so much.